Technical snafus all around me here. Yeah. Good morning, everybody. This is Dr. Mia Lueth. It is 9:10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, New York, USA, or I think it's just Eastern Time. I don't know. I always confuse the standard, so it's just Eastern Time, New York, USA. So it is January 6th, 2026. Yes, it is a Winnipeg Jets game day. They are playing Vegas. I believe that game is at 7, but I'm going to double check because that could be Eastern and I could be wrong. Or, yeah, sometimes they're listed and occasionally I'll see a certain source list them and they're half hour off. And there may be a reason for that. I don't know, but I'm going to double check. Right now I'm saying 7, but it is this evening. Yes. So it's Vegas, the Golden Knights. And of course, let's go streaking through the NHL, boys. Shut the mouths of the doubters. I get it. But at this point, as optimistic as I am and understanding of kind of what vision was that was in mind of most of the people who work for the Jets, and right, okay, of course. So some of the things I'm going to be controversial, and so there are some people who just don't want to listen to someone else's perspective, especially people who are stubborn and think they're right all the time. And I got to tell some fans, especially Winnipeg Jets fans, is like, you should do some research on me. And okay, I've been an NHL like super fan since 78. Okay, I'm 53. I'm a nerd. I'm very thorough, and I do know better, especially about some goaltending things than some do. Okay, yeah, I know people pop on and pop off, right? Because I'm not pretty enough, or I'm not doing it the right way. I'm not the right kind of influencer, and blah blah blah. Yeah, well, people said that about Dominic Hasek. Yeah, there's a winning goaltender, right? So what I'm saying about Chevy is I'm not. I mean, his job does need to be really looked at this point. 15 years. There were people on a couple chats that I participated on that were saying, 15 years is unheard of in the NHL, and not really. Okay. Lou Lamoriello from New Jersey, 15. George McPhee from the Caps, that was like 20 years or something. And then the guy before him. And then Nashville has had, yes, very long tenures, 23 years or something. Previous to Danny Briere with the Flyers and the Hextall, I'm sure it was Hextall. Yeah, they kind of switch off. And online it says between 4.5 and 5 years. And okay, I do think it's a bit longer than that, all things considered, because there are some that do have that kind of longevity. So it's not entirely unheard of. Okay. And sometimes it's because ownership changes. Like, there have been good GMs who understand the players and understand business practices and organizations and things like that, and they're good managers, especially of hockey people. And right, they get removed because new ownership. But yeah, I did put something up on my X post, and yes, of course, Creasesinger. I am the only Creasesinger, Creasenger, on X, formerly Twitter. Blue Line wrote an article about the Old Boys Club, and you might be able to outlast me, Old Boys Club. You won't be able to outlast all of us. Because a lot of stuff you guys were doing was not only highly unethical, but actually, yes, quite literally illegal. And, the players may not have seen the bylaws when they sign contracts with an NHL franchise. But the NHL bylaws, see, people pop on, they don't want to hear what I have to say. But I'm going to keep saying it. One day, somebody's going to notice it. And they're going to say, well, there was somebody trying to help us the whole fucking time. And there was somebody who knew better the whole fucking time. I know I don't have a hockey last name. And nobody in the NHL could tell me you guys don't get positions through nepotism. Some of you do, and it's not exactly right. It's the right person for the job. Whether they have a penis or not, right? Okay, player personnel, right? That's different. Okay? The bylaws of the NHL don't say anything. They're entertainers. They sign contracts to be entertainers. Did anybody not know that? Because I looked at them very thoroughly. And they don't call them athletes or sportsmen. They're referred to as entertainers. So basically, this is a fraud shame. Shame, sham, fraud. Right. Of a hockey league where people have been unethical and breaking actual real human laws and criminal laws the whole fucking time. And then right now their fans actually encouraging right out loud in public on the internet teams to break actual real laws. Because here's the thing, if the Winnipeg Jets decide, and I would understand completely as a long-time NHL fan and knowing how certain things work, because certain things are improving in the NHL. I'm going to get to the fighting thing real quick. Look, I don't care. You guys can bitch about it all you want. But when it became noticeable that there was damage that was happening, okay, especially concussions and other kind of things, yes, the NHL made players wear lids and buckets. So I call lids what the skaters wear and buckets what the goalies wear. They were forced to do so, mandated. And they were also forced and mandated to wear fight straps. So you can't say, I mean, those were two reasons why people's heads and necks were getting directly beat on by, well-practiced pugilists, thereby causing, head traumas and other kinds of things that are just now becoming more and more recognizable in older players. So you're going to have to zip your lips because the league did respond. And they also responded when it comes to, after the removal of the red line, happened, right, you get to see speedier action on NHL ice. Well, that also means, the crashes and all that kind of stuff that happen naturally, create a pile of injuries that weren't seen as much before that happened. And therefore, a lot of stuff with protocol for concussions. And, hybrid icing also helps mitigate that a little. And you can make a decision, it's, that's why I was kind of like on board with hybrid icing, because it does help sort of mitigate that a little bit, right? But yes, the National Hockey League players are not seen as athletes or sportsmen by the NHL based on its bylaws. Okay, so all the rest of you think you know about goaltending. All right, I don't care. You don't really know. And I quite literally am saying that a lot of the fan base, I'm watching the Twitter stream go, I'm participating in chats, seeing some blogs and other kind of things. Look, okay, Eric Connery was put in a difficult situation and had to play he had to be the starting goalie for a stretch of games without much break. And all things considered, I mean, he didn't totally suck. He's a good goalie. I don't care what you say. Okay, fuck his numbers. Because I could go to another franchise right now, and I could say yes, but look what he was working with, and look how many times the team he's on broke down in the defensive part of the game, and you know what I'm saying. And so, a lot of Jets fans been talking about hypercritically talking about, oh, this one had a bad game, this skater had a bad game, this skater had a bad game, this skater had a bad game, this one sucks, that one sucks. All skaters hypercritical of the skaters the whole time. And when Eric Comrie has one fucking bad game, suddenly you want to throw him out like a piece of trash. I'm starting to understand why Canada has not won Stanley Cups. The pattern is starting to become apparent. And it is the one thing, there are a couple of guys who understand what I'm saying who work over there for me, it's like, and over and the Montreal Canadiens have a certain understanding about things now, and perhaps so does Calgary. Okay, I mean, I give a shit, and I certainly don't want anybody's ice hockey club taken from them. I mean, no way. Okay, but you guys are seriously have to take a good look at yourselves, and many of you are super hypercritical, and you jump on your teams on this fake, weird deadline crap that U.S. Americans just don't do. Nobody in the U.S. is all, hypercritically looking at their franchises in U.S. Thanksgiving. I mean, I have seen some serious hypercritical, I mean, and some of it is not even correct information. And so when I put the correct information up, you get the smarmy ones. Well, you can, stick to that Pollyanna. I'm like, yes, I will stick to the actual truth. Sure, Pollyanna or not. Point blank, Comrie had a bad game. But all of you who want to toss, Comrie out like he's a fucking piece of trash, take a good look at yourselves and the things you do. And are you guys like, the most consummate of professionals in the things that you do? And, fuck his numbers. Quite literally. I could just say to another franchise, like, check it out. Okay, we're not going to look at his save percentage. You want to know why? Yeah, this is why. He was asked to, step up, and he did. And he was asked to play a long stretch of games that, right, he couldn't really practice for. And he didn't do that badly. And then Connor Halbert comes back, and he's playing and playing and playing and playing and playing and playing. And I'm sure that tons of goalie coaches and mentors and everything else in all the other franchises in the National Hockey League understand what I'm saying. Okay, well, now he's getting overplayed. And if it's his decision, well, you got to fucking just tell him to sit the fuck down. Eric Comrie sat too long and he got cold. And so, yes, that actually is a factor in the fact that he did not play as well as he can against the Leafs. All right. I don't have nice things to say to some of you because you refuse to shut up and listen to people who know better than you. Maybe this is why Canadian teams have been unable to take home the cup for decades. I'm going to say the truth. I'm going to be right out, bold face, because I give a shit. Particularly about goalies. If you put Mealy, if that club puts Mealy or Divvy up I guarantee you, some of you who are pushing for that and want to throw Eric Comrie out like trash, which is why I'm asking, right? 22 of the other 23, yeah, seriously consider taking on Mr. Comrie as soon as he's available. He's a very, very stable backup goalie. He's a good goalie. He is a good goalie. He's a very stable backup goalie. Okay, and he's got a really good attitude, and he's a team guy. So this also goes out to all the other 23. When you're looking at making plans, having a steady backup who's a team guy and who has a good attitude, and yeah, he's a good goalie despite his fucking numbers. Fuck his numbers, other clubs, because if you look at the situation, you will understand now why his numbers are low. And I know that there are goalie coaches and goalie mentors and GMs and player development guys and scouts who know exactly what the hell I'm talking about. I want Mr. Eric Comrie out of there as soon as can possibly be. Right? His contract is up, and I vouch for the guy. He's stable. He's a team guy. He's a good player. He's hard to get to mentally, and he's an excellent backup. Stable, which is important to ice hockey clubs. He doesn't deserve your bullshit. Okay? Connor played too long. I don't give a shit. I mean, if it were me and I had to tell Mr. Connor Hellbuck, I'm like, Helly, all right, sit down, man. I get it. Okay, but you can't play them all, and your buddy's getting cold, and now everybody thinks he's a piece of trash, dude. You got to be on a regular schedule. I don't care how much you want to play. And if the coach and other people are like, okay, well, maybe you want to consider these things moving forward. Coaching staff and management over there at the Jets, okay? Putting Divvy or Mealy up at this point, I don't think you do understand NHL ice hockey, some of you. You want, I don't even care, okay? I'm saying they are much better where they are right now off, because if you put them up now in this situation, other teams are going to eat them alive. And I have zero respect for any of you who think that that is a good idea. This is absolutely the wrong time to be putting AHL goalies in a situation when you know we can barely score goals. And then, you know what's going to happen? You put Mealy up there, or Divvy, right? You're going to give him like 3 games before you start eating him alive, air quote fans. I'm not going to bullshit anybody. I don't have time for that. I know all about Bones. I followed his career. Well, he didn't actually ever plan to be a head coach, and so he did what he could. Well, he's not coming back. And neither is Ehlers. Get the fuck over it. This is the National Hockey League. Okay? Someone else trying to say, oh, it's a commenter on a chat. I'm going to paraphrase, said it's conventional wisdom that all ice hockey players hit their prime around the age of 27 years old. Maybe some of you need to actually open your ears and listen to other perspectives and actually want to learn about the game, because that's not wisdom at all. So I mentioned to this person, okay, well, the average age of all the players on each of the NHL franchises that have won Stanley Cups in the last 10 years is 28.5. Goalies may hit at 27 depending on what kind of situation, but usually it's closer to 28, 29, sometimes even 30. And I can just keep rolling through names of goalies 30 and over who have won Vesnas and Hearts and Conn Smythes, and skaters who have won awards and prizes and been on Stanley Cup teams after the age of 30. That's not conventional wisdom. And I disagree with you based on the truth. Now, what I'm going to say about Chevy is, yes, Chevy, I got to be honest with you. I've seen a lot of GMs too. And, all kind of work a little bit different. But what you did was you just acted like, la-di-da, same old, same old. And you didn't even put, you could have put like a 5-minute, recorded something. It didn't even have to be press. Okay. And said, we are aware that this team needs help, and we are looking and we are contacting people. We are considering waivers. You understand, there are things we are doing, and we agree it is unacceptable ice hockey. But instead, you waited until your regular old midseason, and you did not actually say, we are putting an unacceptable ice hockey product on the ice. Because that is what you're doing. Now, I will say, a lot of GMs, there are just some things that GMs are never going to say in public. You understand? So some of the stuff that some of you may have wanted to hear, well, you would have been frustrated with any GM in the hockey, because they just don't say certain things. That's just not what they do. And there are reasons for that. And sometimes it's player privacy. But yes, there are some things that all GMs in the NHL just don't say. So I wasn't expecting Chevy to say them either. I mean, I wasn't expecting that. I think the people who really didn't like the fact that he said true fans, well, I mean, you're calling it snide and other kind of stuff. Well, I agree with him in that. I mean, just shut up and go talk to some Edmonton Oilers fans for a while who've been fans for. Talk to any fans of teams who are not recent expansion teams. Okay? Talk to any fans, US or Canada, all right, who've been fans for over 20 years. Like, I mean, Caps fans, like, yeah, we had like 2 decades of not making the playoffs. Okay? The Red Wings right now are going through a playoff drought. The Hawks had to wait like 46 years before they got a Stanley Cup. Buffalo has had, like 3-4 times in the playoffs, and then it's like a drought to get back into the playoffs again. There are franchises who have like been in the bottom part, and Colorado was one of them for quite a few years. When Nate McKinnon was a smelty rookie in Colorado, Colorado was like second to last, and then 26th place, and then like 28th place or something like that. I mean, take a look at the year that McKinnon, and look at the years, and Landeskog. Team wasn't so great. And they weren't making the playoff. And they were hovering down the bottom for quite a few years. Go talk to the Colorado fans. I don't have respect for some of you in being so hypercritical about things that sometimes cannot be avoided. And you know what? You can get upset about some shit, but some of you are not fairly or properly even assessing what's going on. And I agree with Chevy right? I mean, I'm open. The people who are in chat and who know who I am or have heard from me, I do say, maybe we should sit this guy. What's going on here? Perfetti looks highly confused. But I give a shit about the human being known as Eric Comrie and Hellbuck and Mealy and Divvy. And I'm telling you, the other teams will eat them fucking alive. And so will the hypercritical press, by the way. And if they don't play well in 3 games and they don't look like superstars in your minds there, some of you fans claiming to be fans, you guys are going to start doing it. Just like you did to Connor Hellbuck. Now you're all clinging to him. And if you look at his playoff performances, everybody, he had some struggles himself. Eric Comrie doesn't deserve to go through this anymore. The franchise let him sit too long, and he got cold, and he had to come back in, and so he had one bad day. What the fuck are you people angry about? Okay, I'm not sure. It's Chevy. It could be another part of management, right? It could be ownership, okay? But the other thing is that some of you are complaining. I have a deadline here, so I'm gonna probably talk faster, okay? Some of you are complaining about Scott Arniel not, sending down one guy to the A and then bringing up, and I'm saying to you, it's not Scott Arniel's fucking job. All of that has to go through the GM's office. Do you think Scott Arniel has not had conversation with the GM? Okay, well, some of you need to sit down, relax, take a deep breath in, hold it, blow it all the way out, and learn how an NHL organization works in the first fucking place. You may not like what I'm saying, but I'm going to say it anyway because the truth is the truth is the truth. And fans of a franchise are going to want to yell and support and scream. And yes, you do. That's what you do. Like the rest of us who have been on teams where every year we're paying for tickets and we're buying merch and we're doing this other kind of stuff every year. And the team's record is not so great. And there are teams in the fucking National Hockey League right now who started in October knowing that they weren't going to the playoffs. And you do have to remember that when Mr. Kevin Cheveldayoff made those decisions, it was last summer. And we had just won the President's Cup. And we had pulled out the Manitoba Miracle. But we didn't play as well. So we got kicked out of the fucking playoffs. Some of you are actually abusive. And I don't know whether you have gambling problems or you got issues at home, but I can tell you that many of you have no idea even how an NHL franchise works. So I asked the question, and I sent it to Ken Wiebe, and I sent it to Sean Reynolds, and I sent it to Connor. Like, I was just thinking of, like different places, like there, Kenny and Rennie, and then Winnipeg Sports Talk. I was just thinking, and then Sarah Orlesky, right? Like, they're different sources, okay? I'm sure that they know the answer to it, but I'm hoping that maybe they discuss this and they put it out in public and they remind some fans here and there, It is the GM who decides and signs off on who goes up and who goes down, not the head coach. All head coaches and all GMs have conversations regularly. And the Winnipeg Jets had better not put Mealy or Gibby in this situation if there are no injuries, because the other teams don't give a shit and they're going to eat them alive. And then the press is going to start doing it. And then you guys are going to start doing it. They are much better off playing in the AHL and then learning what kind of things they can do to get them ready and prepared to make the transition. Making a transition at this point is just hockey stupid. If I were Chevy and it were my decisions, I would understand, but I would also mention, well, things were different when these decisions were made last year now, weren't they? And by the way, Ehlers, for reasons you don't know about, probably wasn't going to stay at this club anyway. I would have, quite literally, the first thing out of my mouth as a GM would have said, clearly, we are putting an unacceptable product on NHL ice, and we're not unaware of it, and we are as frustrated as everybody else, and we are looking at some waivers. We are looking to see if we can move some players around from the. You understand? And some of you swear that it was just Chevy just has to have his, Jonathan Tays. Well, if you were paying attention, there was an interview done, and Scott Arniel said that over the summer he sat and talked to Jonathan Tays a good bit and thought, what he was hearing and seeing indicated to him as a coach that Jonathan still had it in him. So you guys just go ahead and ignore me. But I want you to know that I'm a friend to goalies at any level, any sport. And I also include basketball only because, right, it's like center guard or something. Right, they do have it's like a goalie position because they have nets. And yeah, there is like a person who stays back near the home net, and tries to block. And you know what I'm trying to say? And yeah, make sure the other team's not scoring. So that's kind of goalie best, right? And here's some honesty. It's none of your business who, but there are 2 NHL goalies who played on Canadian teams for most of their career, and they both attempted suicide because of how horrible some of the press and a lot of the fans are, and they don't understand the game. 2 hockey goalies tried to kill themselves. I'm so grateful that it didn't work out. And by the way, anybody's trying to tell me that, Comrie needs to sit down with the team sports psychologist, well, I would like you to tell me who the team sports psychologist is. Because apparently they don't have one. I'm an honest person. Okay, I'm GM. I'm gonna stand up to some of my decisions. Like, okay, well, we were President's Cup winners last year, and some like Ehlers, they're likely personal reasons. The Ehlers really was more interested in being somewhere else, not because I gotta go. That's my alarm. Time's up. Not because he hated, and not because the team didn't try. Okay? I'm going to say things like that because I do know better. And yes, I am being protective of both Mealy and Divvy because I know how this fucking league works. And I know how fucking mean and hypercritical people are of goaltenders. Two NHL goalies who played mostly for Canadian teams in the National Hockey League attempted suicide because you people think they're pieces of trash and they should be thrown away after one bad game. Go Jets, go. You do kind of suck right now, and somebody needs to help Perfetti. I don't know what's going on. I've never, ever seen an NHL player do stuff like that. I'm not sure, okay? Maybe he needs to be sat and, like, maybe he needs to play on the other. I don't know. Maybe he needs a break. Maybe he's just feeling too much pressure. Halibut. Don't lay your back up, get too cold, okay? And don't let him overwork. All right. We're going for a win against Vegas.